If you have been scrolling through your phone lately and suddenly felt your heart sink because of headlines screaming about new travel bans and extreme vetting measures coming in January 2026, I want you to take a deep breath right now. I know how overwhelming this feels. I know how one alarming post on social media can spiral into sleepless nights, frantic calls to family members, and endless worry about what this means for your future, your travel plans, your visa applications, or even your ability to stay in the country you have worked so hard to build a life in. You are not alone in feeling this way, and more importantly, you deserve to understand what is actually happening instead of being left to piece together fragments of panic-driven information. I am Umar, and this is Real Guide Updates, where we cut through the noise and give you clear, fact-based immigration information without the rumors, without the fear-mongering, and without the speculation that keeps you up at night. Today, we are going to walk through everything you need to know about the enhanced vetting procedures and travel restrictions that are set to take effect in January 2026. We are going to separate what is real from what is exaggerated. We are going to clarify who is actually affected and who is not. And we are going to make sure you leave this video feeling informed and empowered rather than confused and afraid. Let me start by explaining what enhanced vetting actually means in the context of U.S. immigration, because this term gets thrown around constantly without anyone taking the time to explain it properly. Vetting in immigration refers to the process by which the United States government reviews and evaluates individuals who are seeking to enter the country. This process already exists and has existed for decades. When you apply for a visa to come to the United States, whether that is a tourist visa, a student visa, a work visa, or any other category, you go through a screening process. Your background is checked against various databases. Your travel history is reviewed. Your connections and affiliations are examined. The purpose of this process is to determine whether you pose any security risk to the United States and whether you qualify for the visa category you are applying for. What the January 2026 updates refer to is an expansion and strengthening of this existing process. This is not the creation of something entirely new. This is building upon systems that are already in place. The government is introducing additional layers of review for certain categories of travelers and visa applicants. These additional layers may include more thorough background checks, extended interview processes at consulates, enhanced review of social media activity, deeper examination of travel patterns, and additional scrutiny of financial records and sponsorship documents. Now, I want to be very clear about something because this is where a lot of the confusion and fear comes from. Enhanced vetting does not mean that everyone traveling to the United States is suddenly going to face impossible barriers. It does not mean that your existing visa is automatically at risk. It does not mean that you will be detained at the airport just because these new measures are in place. What it means is that the process for certain individuals in certain categories from certain countries may take longer and may involve more steps. Let me explain who is likely to be affected by these enhanced vetting procedures, because this is crucial information that often gets lost in the headlines. The enhanced measures are primarily targeted at individuals from countries that the U.S. government has identified as having inadequate information-sharing agreements with the United States. This is a key point that many people miss. When a country does not share sufficient security-related information with the United States, it becomes more difficult for U.S. authorities to verify the background of travelers from that country. In these cases, the United States compensates for that lack of information by conducting more thorough independent vetting. If you are from a country that has strong information-sharing agreements with the United States, these enhanced vetting procedures are unlikely to significantly impact your visa process or travel experience. If you already hold a valid U.S. visa and have traveled to the United States multiple times without any issues, you are not suddenly going to be treated differently just because of these updates. If you are a lawful permanent resident, meaning you have a green card, these enhanced entry vetting procedures do not change your status or your rights. If you are a U.S. citizen, regardless of your country of birth or ethnic background, you have the absolute right to enter the United States, and that right is not affected by any vetting procedures. Now let us talk about the travel restrictions component of the January 2026 updates, because this is another area where there has been significant misinformation. A travel ban or travel restriction in the U.S. immigration context refers to limitations placed on who can enter the United States from specific countries or under specific circumstances. The United States has used various forms of travel restrictions over the years for different reasons, including public health emergencies, national security concerns, and diplomatic disputes. The travel restrictions being discussed for January 2026 are primarily focused on nationals from specific countries where the U.S. government has determined that there are elevated security concerns. These are not blanket bans that apply to everyone from a particular region or everyone who practices a particular religion. That is an important distinction that often gets lost. The restrictions are country-specific and are based on assessments of security infrastructure, information sharing capabilities, and threat levels associated with each country. I want to take a moment to address some of the rumors and misconceptions that have been circulating about these updates, because I know many of you have seen things online that have caused you significant worry. One rumor that has been spreading is that all visa holders will need to reapply for their visas under the new vetting procedures. This is false. If you currently hold a valid U.S. visa, that visa remains valid until its expiration date. You do not need to reapply simply because new vetting procedures are being implemented. Your existing visa was issued under the procedures that were in place at the time, and it continues to be recognized. Another rumor I have seen is that anyone with a name from a particular ethnic or religious background will automatically be subjected to extreme vetting. This is not accurate and is actually a dangerous misrepresentation. The vetting procedures are based on nationality and travel history, not on names or religious beliefs. The U.S. government cannot legally discriminate based on religion, and the vetting procedures are designed around security assessments of countries, not assumptions about individuals based on their names or backgrounds. I have also seen claims that the enhanced vetting will cause visa processing to take years instead of months. While it is true that enhanced vetting can add time to the processing of certain applications, the claim that it will take years is exaggerated. Processing times vary significantly depending on the visa category, the country of origin, and the individual circumstances of each applicant. Some applications may experience delays of several weeks or even a few months due to additional security checks. However, the vast majority of applications will continue to be processed within reasonable timeframes. There is another piece of misinformation suggesting that the January 2026 updates will allow immigration officers to deny entry to anyone for any reason without explanation. This is not how the system works. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers do have significant authority at ports of entry, and they can deny entry to individuals in certain circumstances. However, this authority has always existed and is not something new. Officers must still follow established procedures and guidelines. They cannot simply deny entry arbitrarily. If you are denied entry, you have the right to know the reason, and in many cases, you have the right to seek review of that decision. Let me now walk you through what the visa application process looks like under enhanced vetting so that you have a realistic understanding of what to expect. If you are applying for a U.S. visa from a country that is subject to enhanced vetting, your application will go through the standard initial steps. You will complete the DS-160 online application form. You will pay the visa application fee. You will schedule and attend an interview at the U.S. Embassy or consulate in your country. During the interview, a consular officer will ask you questions about your travel plans, your ties to your home country, your background, and your reasons for wanting to visit the United States. This part of the process is the same as it has always been. However, after the interview, your application may be flagged for additional administrative processing. This is where the enhanced vetting comes in. Your application may be sent to Washington for additional review. Additional databases may be checked. Your social media presence may be examined more thoroughly. You may be asked to provide additional documentation. This administrative processing can add time to your application, typically anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. During this time, your passport will usually be returned to you, and you will be notified when a decision has been made. The key thing to understand is that enhanced vetting does not mean automatic denial. It simply means a more thorough review. Many applicants who go through enhanced vetting are ultimately approved for their visas. Now, I want to spend some time discussing what you should actually do if you are concerned about how these updates might affect you. The first and most important thing is to stay calm and stay informed. Do not make major life decisions based on rumors or social media posts. Go directly to official sources for information. The U.S. Department of State website has detailed information about visa policies and any changes that are being implemented. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website is another valuable resource, especially if you are already in the United States or are applying for immigration benefits. U.S. Customs and Border Protection provides information about entry procedures and what to expect at ports of entry. If you have a visa appointment scheduled for early 2026, do not cancel it out of fear. Attend your appointment as scheduled and bring all required documentation. Be honest and thorough in your responses to the consular officer. If your application requires additional processing, be patient and respond promptly to any requests for additional information. If you are currently in the United States on a valid visa, make sure your status remains valid. Do not overstay your authorized period of stay. If you need to extend your stay or change your status, file the appropriate applications with USCIS well before your current status expires. Keep copies of all your immigration documents in a safe place. If you are planning travel to the United States in 2026, give yourself extra time. Do not book flights or make non-refundable reservations until you have your visa in hand. Apply for your visa as early as your travel plans allow, keeping in mind that applications can generally be submitted up to a year before your intended travel date. If you have specific concerns about your individual situation, consider consulting with a qualified immigration attorney. I want to emphasize the word qualified here. There are many people who claim to offer immigration advice, but who are not actually licensed to do so. A qualified immigration attorney can review your specific circumstances and provide personalized guidance based on your situation. I also want to take this opportunity to remind you about how immigration policies actually change, because I think this context is important for maintaining perspective. Immigration rules and policies in the United States do not change overnight. There is usually an announcement period followed by an implementation period. During this time, there are opportunities for public comment, legal review, and procedural preparation. When a policy change is announced, it does not immediately affect everyone. There is almost always advance notice of when changes will take effect. This is exactly what we are seeing with the January 2026 enhanced vetting updates. The announcement is being made in advance specifically so that travelers, visa applicants, and immigration practitioners have time to prepare and adjust. This advance notice is by design. It allows people to plan accordingly rather than being caught off guard. It is also worth noting that immigration policies are subject to legal challenge. If any policy violates constitutional protections or statutory requirements, it can be challenged in court. The U.S. legal system includes checks and balances that prevent arbitrary enforcement of immigration restrictions. This does not mean that every policy will be overturned, but it does mean that there are mechanisms in place to ensure that policies are implemented fairly and legally. Let me also address the situation for those of you who are following developments in Canada and the United Kingdom, as many viewers of this channel are considering multiple immigration pathways. Canada operates under its own immigration system, managed by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, known as IRCC. Canadian immigration policies are developed independently of U.S. policies, and changes in U.S. vetting procedures do not directly affect Canadian immigration processes. However, it is worth noting that if you have been denied a U.S. visa or denied entry to the United States, this information may be shared with Canadian immigration authorities and could be considered in your Canadian applications. Similarly, the United Kingdom has its own immigration system managed by the Home Office. UK visa policies are developed based on UK security assessments and immigration priorities. Changes in US policies do not automatically translate to changes in UK policies. However, like Canada, the UK may consider your US immigration history as part of their evaluation of your applications. If you are exploring immigration options in multiple countries, it is important to understand that each country's system operates independently and has its own requirements, procedures, and considerations. What applies to one country does not necessarily apply to another. Returning to the U.S. enhanced vetting discussion, I want to provide some final clarity on the categories of travelers and immigrants who are most likely to be affected by the January 2026 changes. First, applicants for immigrant visas from countries on the enhanced vetting list may experience longer processing times. This includes family-based immigrant visa applicants, diversity visa lottery winners, and employment-based immigrant visa applicants from affected countries. Second, applicants for non-immigrant visas from affected countries may face more detailed interviews and additional administrative processing. This includes tourist visa applicants, student visa applicants, and work visa applicants. Third, travelers from affected countries who are entering the United States under the Visa Waiver Program, if their country participates in the program, may face additional questioning at ports of entry. However, it is important to note that most countries on enhanced vetting lists are not part of the Visa Waiver Program anyway. Fourth, individuals who have traveled to certain high-risk countries in recent years, regardless of their nationality, may face additional scrutiny. This applies even to citizens of Visa Waiver Program countries who have visited certain destinations. For the vast majority of travelers and immigrants, however, the January 2026 updates will not result in dramatic changes to their experience. If you are from a country with strong U.S. relations and robust information-sharing agreements, you are unlikely to notice significant differences. If you have a clean travel history and a straightforward case, your application will likely proceed as normal. I want to conclude by reminding you of a few important things. First, information changes, and what we know today may be updated or clarified in the coming months. Stay connected to reliable sources for the most current information. Check official government websites rather than relying on social media posts or news headlines that may be incomplete or sensationalized. Second, your individual situation matters. General information like what I am providing in this video is meant to give you an overview and context, but it cannot replace personalized advice based on your specific circumstances. If you have a complicated case or specific concerns, seek professional guidance. Third, fear is not a strategy. Making decisions based on panic often leads to poor outcomes. Take the time to understand your situation, gather accurate information, and make thoughtful decisions about your next steps. I hope this video has given you clarity about what the enhanced vetting and travel restriction updates for January 2026 actually mean, and, just as importantly, what they do not mean. I hope you feel more informed and less anxious than when you started watching. If you found this information helpful, I would ask you to do a few things. Please hit the subscribe button if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you are alerted whenever we post new updates. Immigration news moves quickly, And you want to stay informed with accurate information rather than scrambling to catch up when something affects you. Please share this video with someone you know who might be worried about these updates. Share it in your family group chats. Share it with your coworkers. Share it with anyone who might be losing sleep over headlines they have seen. Accurate information is one of the most valuable things we can share with each other. And finally, if you have questions about your specific situation or topics you would like me to cover in future videos, please leave them in the comments below. I read through the comments regularly, and your questions help me understand what information you need most. Thank you for trusting Real Guide updates with your immigration questions. I will see you in the next video.